Mike Romeo from multiversitycomics.com, and I'm here with Mike Richardson. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm just saying hi to everybody there.
Awesome. Dark Horse is doing...
Can I ask you something? Does that hurt right there?
No, sir. It's pretty... They've been there long enough to be plenty healed. You are at the helm, publisher, founder, CEO, like what is the official...
Yes.
All those things.
Yes.
You are at the helm of some of my favorite things happening in comics right now, but there are a few things that I specifically want to talk about. Starting with Dark Horse Presents and its return to publishing. I think that you're doing some pretty interesting things, not only as far as content, but in terms of approach to publishing. It seems like you're testing the waters with a lot of things and inviting a lot of creators that don't necessarily have a history with Dark Horse over. So can you talk a little bit about what that's like?
Yeah, there's a variety of approaches for Dark Horse Presents. One is to find new talent, and especially a show like this, there's a lot of great writers and artists that we're sort of tracking down to sort of talk to them about, find their stuff, and then talk to them about maybe bringing their ideas to Dark Horse Presents. Is a good way for them to sort of get their feet wet with Dark Horse. Mainstream creators or creators that have existing followings or existing books, sometimes they can't do a book for us because they're just too booked up. But a lot of times they can do 8 pages a month. A writer and artist can fit that in the schedule, or even 8 pages every 2 months. But the 8-page segments allow them to maybe do some work that they might not have been able to do if they had to do an ongoing series.
Like they get out of the box a little bit.
Yeah, and then sometimes when once you get them in the book and people respond, and then that actually helps them want to do more, so that works also. But finding new talent, getting some of the great creators in the book, some of the great characters also. I mean, we're doing Baron and Rude's Nexus, and bringing them back. Ron Randall's Trekker coming back.
Been amazing.
And by the way, as Ron's stuff, he's always a fine artist, but his new stuff, it just looks great. He's really, you can see how much he's advanced in his art over the years.
How into it he is.
Oh, he's definitely into it, let me tell you.
So the other interesting thing with it is that you're sort of collecting things into 0 issues and springing off ongoings from there. Was that part of the plan from the relaunch of Dark Horse, or is that something that just sort of made sense?
Well, we've always, it's a shame that some of these stories just exist in the 8-page chapters. So even the first incarnation of Dark Horse Presents back in the 80s, we would collect 3 and 4 and 5-part stories into one book, just so somebody could pick up the story and read it all at once and not have to try and figure out, here's all my books, now I can read the story. So it seemed to make sense to put them together, and almost always it gets collected also into the trade. So one place or another, we want people to have the chance to buy the whole thing together. So it made sense to put it together and re-release it, and not everybody buys Dark Horse Presents, but they might buy the book under the title. So it gives us another chance to get a particular character or logo out there in front of people.
Awesome. To switch gears a little bit from Dark Horse Presents, I want to touch on the manga and manhwa publishing that you guys do. I hadn't really realized until I was getting ready for this, but it's been 25 years of manga publishing. So, I mean, you must have been at the forefront of bringing stories like this to the United States. So, can you talk a little bit about what that experience has been like?
Well, I was a fan of manga and Japanese culture in general. I started going to Japan somewhere around 89 or 90 and started meeting a lot of the creators. We started publishing manga from about our second year. Started out with a reprint of Godzilla, the comic over there, which, by the way, we didn't have any translators. We didn't know any translators back in those days, so we got the rights to the book, and then I took issues 1, 3, and 5 home, and Randy Stradley took issues 2, 4, and 6 home, and then we just wrote our translations ourselves, looking at the pictures.
So literally following the sequentials and telling the story from there.
And the amazing thing is, years later, when we got the actual translations, we were pretty close,
Really?
So yeah, that was the first one. But then we I met someone by the name of Torrin Smith who had a company, Studio Proteus. And whereas for the first years I'd go over to Japan, we'd pick books by me standing in a bookstore and looking at through all the manga and trying to decide which ones I thought had a look and sort of you could tell the story through the sequential art, but had the right look so that we could sell it in American audience to an American audience, because believe it or not, manga wasn't big back in those days. But we met up with Torrin Smith, who then would bring books to me, and I still go over there and meet with the publishers and meet with the creators, but he'd bring books and suggest them to me, and he was a big help with us. Torrin passed away a couple of years ago, and I don't think people understand that Torrin really was the guiding force in bringing manga to America in the early days. Anyway, also I had books that I knew, manga books that I knew about before I ever started Dark Horse. One of them, of course, was Lone Wolf and Cub. Absolutely. And I had to have that, and I chased it, and I talked to another publisher who had just started not long before we did, told him I was looking for this book, and unfortunately he was at a party and ran into somebody at a party in Los Angeles who had the rights. And because I had told him I was looking for this thing, he just took them. He told him he wanted them. So we didn't get them at that point, so I had to wait till that deal was done. And there's a little bit of ill will between the creators and that American company for a while, so then I couldn't get it for that reason. But finally I met Koike, and we talked and we became friends, and we got the rights. And so it was about, I think, 10 years it took me to get the rights for Lone Wolf and Cub, but I persisted. We finally got it. Now we're doing omnibuses of the original series, and they're terrific, and we're about to release the new Lone Wolf and Cub, the follow-up that takes place right after the last series ends.
So volume 21, I guess?
No, it'll be a new number 1, but the story takes place right after, and I think there were 28 volumes of the original. 28 volumes of 300 to 400 pages, something like that per volume. Now the new one starts right after that. It starts with the new number 1, but it's the new Lone Wolf and Cub.
That's super exciting. I mean, that's such a great series, and you guys have had, I mean, waiting 10 years for it. I mean, what, 1.5 million copies of Lone Wolf and Cub or something like that?
Yeah, somewhere in that. It's our best-selling manga. But we also, there's other manga that did very well for us. Aside from Lone Wolf and Cub, we did Ghost in the Shell, huge success. Akira, huge success. Great creators, Shiro and Otomo. Naito and Trigun, Berserk. Berserk's been amazing. We got that pretty early, and it's been probably done far more because it's an aggressive book, right?
Yeah, and the art is insane.
Yeah, the art is insane. So I loved it, wanted to do it, but he's taken way beyond what I ever expected. It's an aggressive book, I guess we'll say. Yeah.
So to close out, can we touch on Kitchen Sink for a little bit?
Sure.
Because I was super excited to see the announcement that it'll be an imprint of Dark Horse. You have Marvel Comics book coming up. Sort of, what's the plan and what's the future for Kitchen Sink and Dark Horse?
Well, Dennis and I has always shared a certain taste in comics and certain types of projects that maybe other publishers wouldn't do. And so, Dennis is still interested in being involved in that end of it. And obviously, we've known each other for a long time. Dennis is one of the people in the industry I've always admired and trusted. And so we've done some projects in the past together. And I guess Dennis wanted to restart his old business, but he didn't necessarily want to rebuild the machine. Okay. So we had the machine. He came and talked to me and said, basically, you've got the machine. Let us package the books, and we'll create a new imprint. We'll release it together. And again, we have a shared sensibility. So the books that Dennis is going to pick, I already know I'm going to like them. And so the first few we've done, I have to say, for instance, our Crime Does Not Pay series, that was Dennis's suggestion. And it's paid off very well for us.
Those are beautiful collections.
Oh, they're great. And Crime Does Not Pay was a huge title back in the day. So they're fun and they're lurid and they're great. You know, you look at the covers and you know what you're getting
best
into.
covers.
Yeah. So we're excited. We've got some surprises for some of the things that come up. We have one project in particular I can't wait till people hear about, but we're not quite ready to announce it.
So are these going to be like reprints, or are these going to be new projects, both?
New projects, reprints, who knows what we'll end up with and what Dennis will come up with, and John. But they're going to be great books.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited.
Okay, and you can't go yet.
I won't go.
Yeah, because we have to talk about some of the new stuff.
All right.
This exciting announcements today. First of all, Matt Wagner going back to Grendel doing
the Dynamite crossover
with Dynamite, Grendel in the Shadow, with Matt writing and drawing Grendel for the first time in many, many years. Conan and Red Sonja with Brian Wood and Gail Simone writing. A lot of people have been asking about that. Wendy Peeney doing the final. It's going to take 2 to 3 years, but the absolute final Elfquist, ending the story after decades. We've announced that we'll start publishing the EC Archives, probably the greatest line of comics in history. What else? What else can I think of? Oh, and our superhero line. Don't forget our superhero line, because these are great.
You guys have been doing real big things with it.
Yes, and we have big events planned for the summer, but more about that later. But we've got new characters that are going to be launched into, and some really fun twists and turns in this. And we're trying to build a superhero universe that isn't just a copy of a Marvel or DC universe. We're trying to create our own house look and style, and we've got a lot of fun coming up. So people have been asking us a lot of questions, and we've been a little vague, but just tell everybody, watch the skies. Something fun is going to happen.
So that's a lot of information. A couple of things that I want to hit on real quick with it. With the EC publishing and the EC rights, a few publishers have had their crack at collecting those. What's Dark Horse's approach going to be?
Well, we're going to collect the volumes, the complete library again. We will end up, and what they've been collected before, Russ Cochran's great volumes, but this is the first time, and we're coming into, because Russ already done a few of the book, but we're coming into it. Our plan is to do the complete library, and people have to remember it's been done before, but never in full color. This is full color, beautifully colored, and like I said before, to me this is the greatest line of comics ever. If you look at the context of the time when these were released, now we know creators can have their visions, they can or realize their visions for a comic. Comics are in a different place, but in those days EC Comics really pushed the boundaries and really stood out, and they've been copied and borrowed from ever since by directors, writers, illustrators. So really, from an editorial standpoint, from a creative standpoint, just from the standpoint of who worked on them, this is literally the greatest line of comics ever.
And so physically, like as far as the treatment, will they be similar to the Crime Does Not Pay, like as far as like paper stock?
No, they're going to be oversized.
Oh shit.
Poop,
whatever.
He didn't say that.
I didn't say it.
He meant gosh darn it.
Gosh, dang-nammit.
Yeah, dang-nammit. Anyway, they're beautiful, and we've done a little bit of redesign on them, and even Russ Cochran, who's been doing them, said our first one, Tales of the Crypt, he said this is the best these books have ever looked.
When's the launch for that going to start?
Tales of the Crypt, I've got the advanced copy, our first one, on my desk.
Oh.
And so that means it's coming in the next few weeks. Yeah, because I get an advanced copy as they're come here. So it'll be here shortly. And then we follow that. We have Vault of Horror coming after that. And so great books. Yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah, I think so.
The Dynamite stuff that you touched on, is this the first of a series, or is this because you guys have an interesting new relationship, like with the joint digital and all that stuff? So will we be seeing more worlds colliding?
Yeah, I think that we're talking about some other stuff. It's fun. Nick has been clever in what his choices are for the licensees after, and like the Shadow, I'm a crazy Shadow fan, so he's got me at a disadvantage, So when he proposes these things, I got to say yes, right? So crazy like a fox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all super exciting news from New York Comic Con. For multiversitycomics.com, I'm Romeo. Mike Richardson. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.